Yeah, I'm good.
1 2 1 2. Yeah. Okay, should we go?
Let's do this. Let's do this.
Hello and welcome to Hardcore Listing Podcast. I'm one half of your presenting duo. I'm Stu Whiffin, and sitting opposite me via the means of Zoom is
Greetings. It's Christopher William Glasson.
what?
I'm spectacular.
Yeah.
Really good, mate. Yeah. Putting on the pounds.
Yeah. Do you know what? I've literally, as I sit down now, I'm seeing like less and less of my legs when I'm sitting in this chair. It feels like the belly's just kind of, it's like, it feels a bit sort of swollen and hard, and it's like my belly, and it's like, and I don't know why it is. I'm not necessarily eating what, but it is. I think just having them extra couple of glasses of wine, like of a night, that I wouldn't normally have. I think it's that. I think it's booze.
My page on my phone now, my front landing page is me looking like a state sat eating, and Molly's like, "Why have you set that as your homepage?" And I'm like, "Because you're going to divorce me soon if I don't change my behaviour."
Well, before we do anything else, we should say that we've got a guest tonight. And
yes.
The last time we hung out with today's guest, we was all quite drunk with James and with Pip. So, hello again. Are you all right?
Hello. Yeah, very good. I am in a better state than I was last time I saw both of you.
How was you the next day?
I think compared to how James was and compared to how Pip said he was, I think I was absolutely fine. I have a real skill of seeming like I'm fine when I'm deeply, deeply hammered.
Yeah.
And I'd hit like proper red wine drunk when we were recording the drunk cast. So because I think I planned on getting tipsy to mid pissed. I thought I'd do.
Yeah.
I'd do a bottle of wine and I'd be happy with that. And then I'd done the bottle and we were only about an hour in, so I opened another bottle and I did 2 bottles of wine. So I was like deep wading through the ravine of shit face by the time we finished. But I think Pip threw up straight afterwards, and James had a horrible night, I think.
Yeah, Pip doesn't drink a lot, and he's had a few nightmares that have involved. I think one drunk cast, which was a Christmas special. He was sick about 7 times as we were driving home, and his mum was
driving us as well.
Yeah,
and he had to pull over.
He wasn't driving, right?
Yeah, yeah, that time. And then he had to pull over and have an emergency poo in a cricket ground, wasn't it?
In a cricket club, yeah.
Yeah, so when he's committed to it, I respect him for that.
I mean, we should clarify, not in the toilets of the cricket club, in on the pitch.
Just on the crease?
He went right on the crease, yeah.
Better to get it on the crease than on your own crease.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you mentioned a very unique top 5 on the drunk cast, and so we was quick to jump on you to get you on here to do that. So do you want to introduce the top 5 you're going to do, Ed?
Sure. I mean, I obviously only vaguely remembered this the next morning, and then Chris immediately texted me to say, "Is that something you want to come on and do?" And I was sort of like, "Yeah, I guess." Because it's not, I don't think it's necessarily within my personality or brand, but I have come up with them fairly quickly. So I woke up the next morning after the drunk cast, and I went onto my phone and I went to Google something on my phone, and the page I had open was a Google search for Samantha Janus naked in the film Up and Under.
I've not listened back to the drunk cast, and now it's coming back. That conversation.
Yeah.
So we were talking about that being a sort of like a pivotal moment in a lot of our lives, and I think one of us mentioned, it was probably me, that I should do top 5 nude scenes on your podcast. And I decided, by the way, I put rules on myself to discount the Up and Under scene.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I feel like we've already discussed
Spoiler.
it within the podcast universe. So you know, I don't want to go through all that again, even though I can't remember what the fuck I said anyway.
It's had its airtime, and if people want to, hear that, just go and check out the drunk cast over on Distraction Pieces.
Yeah, or just Google it, because as I found, there are just some screenshots of it available on Google Images.
Have you put any other restrictions on this, Ed, or is that the only sort of restriction on your top 5? Is there any rules around it?
There's no other rules around it. That was the only restriction. I decided to actually go broader than the initial thought. So the initial thought is you go nude scenes for the ones that sexually titillated you.
Oh, okay.
But I've decided to broaden it out to, they're not necessarily all sexually titillating.
Yeah.
One of them's just funny. And also, a lot of them, I mean, most of them are from a particular time in my life. It's that sort of sexual awakening one.
Of course.
If you see them at a specific moment in your life, that's when they really, I mean this, burn themselves onto your memory.
Yeah.
They hit home. When we said we'd do this, after we did the drunk cast and I mentioned one, and then like after we spoke about it the next day, and I tried to get you when you might have still been drunk, Ed, to come on basically, and then I thought, yeah, nude scenes, and then the first three I picked, I thought they'd be titillating. The first three I picked, I realised all involved prosthetics, or they weren't real. I was like, that's strange that I went straight to just weird shit. So I might drop a few in at some point.
Okay, so that's immediately you saying that has reminded me of one that I definitely should have picked but didn't. But if you're going to discuss it, that's fine.
Sure. You can throw some honourable mentions in, Ed.
Sure.
Yeah, great. Also, no porn. That was my rule.
Yeah. Okay.
Commercially available, above the counter films. They're all films. Actually.
We don't want you spoiling the ending of the Pornhub series, Ed.
No, exactly.
Not everyone's watched it all.
All right. So, Ed, are they in any order? Are they like 5 being, your least favourite, or 1 being your favourite, or just five?
I've done that, but it's more that's the order I want to discuss them in, rather than that being any qualitative judgment on them.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So, if are you ready to kick off with my
number
very boring
5,
number
mate.
5?
Fire away.
I've picked this as my number 5 simply because, let's get it out of the way. I'm sure everyone thinks of it. I think certainly everyone of my age probably thinks of it. Yeah. Everyone thinks of it when you think nude scenes in films, especially in a film where you don't necessarily expect it, and it certainly doesn't need it. Kate Winslet in Titanic.
Pay me like one of your French girls. If I knew when I was a youngster, I couldn't be bothered to watch it. The idea of
I'll never do that voice again, by the way, Chris.
I avoided it, and then only recently, about 6 months ago, I watched it. And if I knew Kate Winslet was naked in it, it
was like, I remember I saw it in the cinema with my mum and my best friend. We went to the cinema, and it was like it was simultaneously a reward and a punishment all at once. Because I didn't want to go and see that film. It's certainly not my sort of film. And then when that happened, I was like, I cannot believe my luck that Kate Winslet is naked in this film. And then also, I remembered I was sat next to my mum. I was like, this is the worst day of my life.
Such a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
Wasn't we discussing this the other day, Stu, about when you end up watching, like, something comes on the telly that's a bit naughty and you're with your parents and it's just the most uncomfortable sort of thing to have to go through?
That definitely happened to me with American Werewolf in London. I remember like watching it and thinking I was really tough in front of my parents, going, yeah, I'm not scared. I'm not scared. Then the sex scene came on and then I was like, oh, the horror. It was far more horrific what I had to endure for the whole length of Moondance.
That's another classic, isn't it? American Werewolf in London. Is it who is it? Is it Jenny Agutter in that?
Yeah.
Is it a shower scene as well? It's another shower scene.
Yeah. There's the shower scene, then there's the lovemaking scene. Yep.
Also, I just want to make this very clear. It wasn't like Chris contacted me and said, you can do any top 5 in the world. What do you pick? And I immediately went, top 5 nude scenes. I'm an absolute pervert. It happened to come up in conversation. We thought it'd be funny and we've run with it. There's many other top 5s I probably would have rather done for my brand, but here we are. Even then, you mentioned American Werewolf in London. I'm like, yeah, Jenny Agutter in the shower. I'm not. 16 minutes, 33 seconds in. I'm not Mr. Skin. I don't know all of these things off by heart.
Brilliant.
Incredible. Well, we were thinking that because actually one thing we talked about a lot on the drunk cast was new metal. So there's always that chat at some point, Ed.
Yeah, we can do top 5 underappreciated new metal bands.
Brilliant. Okay, so do you want to do another one? Because I've got a few that I want to throw in, but I'm conscious. I'm a bit worried that I might say some that you've chosen.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Have you got any?
At the
naked...
moment, I've genuinely just googled Titanic nude scene Kate Winslet. Just looking at it on my phone. Pathetic.
Have you got any naked men on your list?
I have one naked man on my list.
Okay.
And I had that to discuss. Let's just discuss that next, because it's not in a particular order.
Okay, cool.
So I think this is the best comedy nude scene, because the male body is inherently funnier than the female body. I think it's fucking ridiculous that we're built like that. And it's Jason Segel in Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It happens so early on in the film. It's a full frontal nude shot, which is just hilarious. When you see a dick in context, it's even funnier. And he's being broken up with at the time. He drops his towel in shock, and Kristen Bell breaks up with him. And he's got a hilarious body. It's not a bad body. It's not like, look at that gross man. It's just he's just such a comedy. He's such a comedy sort of. The way he's built is just like a cartoon character. I love it. It makes me laugh so much.
Well, that's what I like about it, is the fact that he's not an Adonis. Sorry, Jason, if you're listening. You know, he's got quite an odd blobby sort of shaped body, hasn't he? It's not like huge, but it's
not at all.
It's
quite
very much
normal,
like
quite a normal body. Like, but it's also just he is such a funny comedy actor, and his face when he's butt naked being broken up with, and the sort of shame of that happening at the same time, and then having to sit down, and the way his body all folds up when he sits down. It's just it's really funny.
Well, I'm going to throw a naked man in the mix as well. Then, so mine is somebody that is way more out of shape, and I don't even know the actor's name. I don't even know what the character's name is, but I'm going to talk Borat, and the scene that goes on and on and on, and you think it can't carry. I was carrying on, and it's just fucking hilarious, to the fact that it just starts with his balls in Sacha Baron's face, and then just the gigantic run through the hotel is one of the greatest nude scenes ever.
That's incredible.
I love that you said my pick is way more out of shape, and I don't know his name. You couldn't even be bothered to give him the dignity of the name. You said this fat bloke from Borat. But it is amazing. That is someone who couldn't give two shits. Like, he's just completely free with what he's doing, getting his balls out. I mean, I hope that that's what it was, that he's just so free as an actor that he was totally willing to fulfill that, rather than he'd not had a part in years and the only way to get into a film was by getting his nuts out.
That's a very good point. And I'm going to throw one more quick one in while we're discussing naked men. And
sure, you were very keen to get into naked men, Stu. Very keen.
It's just that opening scene. I think it might even be one of the first times you see Graham Chapman in Life of Brian, when he just opens the shutters and he's completely naked, and there's just hundreds of people there. Like, that scene, I think, is magnificent.
It's full frontal nude men. It's hilarious. I don't know how my fiance doesn't laugh every single fucking day.
Oh.
Just ridiculous.
My girlfriend looked at my dick the other day and went, just always looks painful. So what does that mean, Molly? Leave it out. Well, while we're talking about naked men, and I'll mix that with prosthetics. One of my favourite movies is Boogie Nights, and it was one of Mark Wahlberg's first films. And one of the closing scenes in that is obviously he plays a guy whose character is somewhat based on John Holmes, the porn star. And throughout the movie, it's a bit like Jaws. You know, you don't really see much. They just tease it all the way.
Just like Jaws.
And it's so much better for it, because throughout the film, like, he's like getting it out for like porn producers, and all they're doing is sort of like staring at it and then looking up like lovingly into his eyes, like so impressed. And at one of the last scenes is he's sort of like amping himself up, and he just whips out this absolutely huge dong. And I didn't know a lot about Mark Wahlberg at the time. I was like, is that real? Is that fake? But I've done my research. It was a fake wang, but it was one incredible fake wang. So I had to throw that in there.
Shout out to Michael Fassbender. We've all seen Shame, right?
Always a shout out to Fastbender.
You've seen it enough for me, mate. You've seen it about 20 times.
Oh dear. Number 3, Ed.
Okay, which one am I going to pick? We've done. There's The Only Man on my list. We've done Titanic. So there's sort of 2. Well, they're all sort of coming of age sexual ones, really, with all stories attached. Let's just go straight in for this one. I don't even know if it counts as a nude scene, but in my head it was a nude scene. This is how affecting this was to me, that it was totally a nude scene in my head, and I've obviously gone back and looked at it, and it is the side of a boob. And it's Barbara Windsor in Carry On Camping.
I can't believe I didn't think of that. I can't believe it.
It's because it was on ITV, so I saw it on ITV, and it's the bit where they're doing the workout, and then her bikini top pings off, and then you get a tiny look of a side boob, and then she covers herself up and pushes them down. And honestly, men are pathetic, because I've never forgotten that.
I mean, it's etched in my brain, that.
Yeah.
And I should point out that Carry On Camping was on about 3 weeks ago, and I was doing some work in the front room, and my wife shouted out, "Quick, get in here!" And it was just as she started doing the exercise routine. I was like, "Oh, fantastic. Classic Carry On Camping."
I love it. Get in here. Get in here.
Quick, you're going to miss it.
She could have recorded it for you, mate, couldn't she?
Yeah,
technology now. She wanted you to catch it live with the rest of the country watching it.
Would you have been watching that with your folks, though?
No, I don't think I would have seen that with. I think that would have been me flicking and then realising that the Carry On films could be a source of titillation rather than comedy. I don't think I watched them as comedies between the ages of sort of 8 and 13. I think it was all about, hoping to see a little bit of something.
Yeah. Shoot, no one watched Eurotrash with their parents, did they?
No, exactly.
Come on, let's be honest.
Obviously, I'm way older than you, and so what I kind of got exposed to as a teen was the kind of the next run up the ladder from the Carry On franchise was the Confessions franchise, which was Robin Asquith as a driving instructor, a window cleaner, or a plumber. And I mean, they are shockingly bad films, but as a young teen, it was like, there's gonna be some boobs in this. I'm gonna watch.
See, this is even sadder, but I've never seen a Confessions of film, but I remember standing in Blockbuster looking at the back of the video case. I used to go and seek them out and then go and look at the back of the video case, because they'd show quite a lot on those as well. Distinctly remember, I think it's Window Cleaner, where on the back of the video case, one of the screenshots is of she's straddling him. And I was like, yeah.
Fucking hell, Ed. That's very good memory there.
How are we desensitized to that now? You'll probably see that, Ed, and be like, that's
yeah, exactly.
But as a kid, looking at the back case and just committing it to memory.
Exactly. Just running, shutting my eyes and running home, just trying to keep it in there.
But that was definitely a thing, as a child of the 80s, going to the video shop and kind of and not just looking at the top shelf, just thinking, wow, like who gets them, like who hires them out, who's brave enough, because obviously I was too young. But and it wasn't just that, it was the horror films as well. You wanted to kind of look at the back covers of the horrors as well. But yeah, them kind of top shelf ones, it was like, I don't think I ever saw anybody get one of them out from a video shop.
No. Just everyone looking at the cases.
It really was.
Who was renting them out? Is it? Yeah, I don't know. Does they come in at a certain hour when they know? Is it really like last minute closing time? All the shifty people come in and.
I think there'd actually be a business in. You don't even have to make the film. You just rent out the cases. You just make up a film, just put some sort of saucy pictures on the back of it, and men would pay sort of £5 to have it for the weekend.
The only time I ever got in a really embarrassing situation in a video shop was the one literally around the corner to me, where I used to sort of regularly rent out videos to the point where, the woman in her probably 60s that worked in there knew my name, and we would have like a kind of an exchange of words as we would like do the transaction and stuff. And then when they made the Howard Stern film, Private Parts. I went in there and rented it out, and she was also chatting to another woman in there, and I went, there you go, and she went, oh, what you got? Private Parts? And the other woman looked at me like I was a pervert, and I was like, no, it's about a DJ. And now you just think, what's the point? I'm not getting out of this hole. I've just got to like take it on the chin. Yeah.
Also shout out to the scene in Private Parts, the speaker scene where he makes a woman come through the speaker.
Yep.
That's another one that could have made the list.
I know. Yeah, it's literally doing what you just done there, Chris, on a microphone. Have you got any you want to throw in there, Chris?
Well, we said about uncomfortable watching and renting things, so I'll throw this one in. It's not even me. This is a good mate of mine, Mark. He had hired a tough movie to watch. Great movie, Irreversible, Gaspar Noé. And the very first scene in that is following a man trying to avenge something that you don't really understand, and he's going through a fetish club called Anus. And basically, my mate rented that, sat at home and started watching it when his stepdad walked in. And his stepdad was very like just a man's man and very 80s. And he was like, what are you watching? And Mark said, oh, I don't know, I've just put it on. I heard it's quite good. And then he had to proceed to watch the opening scene, which involves fisting. One man fisting another guy. And Mark was like, his stepdad just got up and walked out. And Mark was like, what does he think I am? I know just hired these like crazy films.
I mean, I felt pretty uncomfortable watching a Carry On around my folks. A Gaspar Noé film, it just doesn't happen, does it? You wouldn't go there.
Well, it was the first one he'd watch. I think by the time he'd tried to watch any others, he was like, absolutely not going to be putting on Climax with my parents, basically. Another one. Let me have a think. I couldn't stop listing. Have you got any more like prosthetic ones or?
Yeah, I do. Because I hadn't considered that, and then the ultimate. It has popped up. The ultimate prosthetics nude scene for me is Total Recall.
That's where you was going, wasn't it, Chris?
It's one of the other 5 prosthetics I got, but that's the first one that I thought of when you said that. Went straight to that. Yeah.
That is it. I mean that film. I think I saw that relatively young, maybe 14 or 15. I found it hilarious then. I couldn't. It wasn't sexual me viewing that. The three-breasted woman is absolutely hilarious. It's a stroke of genius. It's a great film anyway.
Oh, it's so good.
I love that film. I think it's a masterpiece. But that, as a talking point, is great, isn't it?
It's amazing. And the guy's line, I think the guy's response when the woman bears all, and the guy's response is, makes me wish I had 3 hands. It's like, that's a great 80s one-liner.
It's so 80s. It's so 80s in just like it's understanding and handling of sexual politics. Yeah. The sort of smart one-liner. It makes me wish I had 3 hands. Fucking brilliant.
Yeah, that. I went straight to that one, and then I did think, what am I doing? There's plenty of other normal nude scenes, but like you say, I think like when you're young, as if a woman with 3 breasts you're not gonna forget seeing 3 three-breasted women, are you ever?
Does it worry you that when we started talking about top 5 nude scenes, your immediate go-to was prosthetics? Well,
I'll tell you what, it did.
It is nice that we've helped you discover a fetish, Chris.
It did, Ed, until then my girlfriend said, so what is it today? Nude scene. Oh, brilliant. She had a little think. She went, E.T.'s always nude.
Right, well, you found the right woman.
Well, exactly. I figured, you're on my wavelength. Amazing.
E.T. doesn't have a dick flopping around, though, does he?
I'm pretty certain. Like a 3-breasted woman, you'd remember like a 3-foot tall alien with a wang.
But that was Total Recall. I remember like literally everybody going back into school, and all they spoke about was the woman with 3 tits. It was just the absolute focal point of the film.
Yeah, it was great.
I still think about it quite a lot, I'd say.
I don't know if they did that in the remake. I'm not sure. I have seen it, but I can't really.
I think the remake was a bit more serious. I think it was a bit more sort of considered, it wasn't great. Like, I think it was a bit less fun. I don't think they did the. You can't. I mean, you have to up it, don't you, if it's a remake? So they should have done 6.
6, yeah.
Yeah, 3 on the front, 3 on the back.
Need to see.
That would have. If you go, oh god, retreading old ground, and then she turns around, she's got 3 on her back as well.
Ed, have any of yours? Obviously, you're famous for your podcast about food. Do any of yours involve food and big parts of food?
They don't actually, although there's a couple of famous ones, I guess, aren't there?
Yes.
Although I don't think this is a nude scene, but I think it's a parody of another film that I've not seen, but I think it's Hot Shots Part 2, where Charlie Sheen starts using stuff from the fridge during a sexual encounter and just gets everything from the fridge and pours it all over her.
Fries an egg on her
stuck in my
stomach.
mind. Yeah, he fries an egg on her stomach, exactly. Well, I think that's a parody of another film, right?
I think it's. Well, is it the one you're going to say, Stu? 9.5 weeks. Was that?
I think that's what it's the parody of, but that's not what I was going to go with. I was going to go with which probably will be my number one, which is Erika Eleniak coming out of a giant cake in Under Siege.
Mm.
Yeah, that's good. That crossed my mind as well.
What a treat!
Yeah.
And Erika Eleniak was in E.T. So yeah, know the scene where Elliot's letting all the frogs go.
Yeah.
And then he runs up and kisses the girl.
Oh, that's her.
That's Erika Eleniak. Yeah.
What a career!
I know.
E.T. and then Naked in a Cake in a Steven Seagal film.
I can't think, like, knowing more now about Seagal, that makes me feel even more creepy though. The cake scene, because that probably wasn't in the scripts. And he was like, "Tell you what, we should have it."
Do you think he turned up with the cake? Look, I've got this in the back of the car. I just had a quick idea on the way in.
Just knock this up.
Yeah.
This doesn't make any sense in the film. Honestly, do not worry.
Hear me out. I'm going somewhere with this. Okay, Chris, any more before we get on to Ed's? Where are you at? 2 or 1,
number 2, I think. Is that 2 you're on now?
Yeah, we've done, Carry On Camping, Titanic, and Forgetting Sarah Marshall, yeah.
Oh,
I've got 2 left. I've got 2 left.
Number 2, mate, go on.
This is, I think I've spoken about this on Off Menu before, but it's such a big nude scene for me. It's Hackers. It's Angelina Jolie in Hackers.
Got it on here, mate. Got it on here.
Oh, nice. Because I saw it probably when I was 13, and we were on a school trip to France, and they showed it on the ferry.
Incredible.
We were on the ferry, and they had like a little cinema room, and it was like a long ferry trip, and they were like, "Well, come in here. They're going to put a film on now," and they showed Hackers, and they showed the scene where Angelina Jolie takes her top off, which is with Johnny Lee Miller, and like the place went fucking nuts. Like it was like Beatlemania. People just went mad.
Running at the screen.
Just feral, like, yeah. Everyone pulling their trousers down, running towards the screen. Just a boat full of boys just going absolutely mad.
Well, like, I always felt that on our trips, especially when they went abroad, like we were kind of like, you'd go into the newsagents and there was a lot more pornography going in there. And when you're like a 14-year-old boy, that's quite a crazy sort of thing. Because I think we went to Belgium at one point, and yeah, we went in one of the shops. We couldn't believe how within reach this pornography was. Yeah. So
I'd like cigarettes, porn, cigarettes, bangers, and Ninja Stars. That's what a trip to France was. I brought a Ninja Star and got it back on the bus on a school trip.
That's incredible.
And then was throwing it in the garden, and it went over the garden fence and landed near a neighbour who was digging, and then that was taken away from me. I basically nearly killed a neighbour with ninja apparatus when I was 12.
Incredible. My friend smuggled weapons back for me before on holiday. Like knives this long, like throwing those. Like, got this for you. I was like, how did you get that back? Just in this suitcase.
The one thing that I smuggled back, I didn't even smuggle back, it was probably totally legal. it was a flick comb. It was like a flick knife, but it was a comb. And then like everyone was like, yeah, you've got to pull the comb out and then crush the metal bit and then sharpen that up and then you can kill someone.
Wicked.
I forgot you went to school in prison, Stu. This is just reminding me of a story. This wasn't in France or anything, but a couple of friends from school who thought they were bad boys said, they went, oh, on the weekend we're going to Camden Market and we're going to buy knives. So
sick.
They each took, this is genuinely true. I went, I'm not coming with you. Found out on Monday they'd each taken 30 quid to Camden Market to go and buy a knife, and they were mugged on the way to buy a knife.
Buy a knife at knife point.
Straight away.
Oh God.
They were like, yeah, we got our knife money. Give you all your money. Okay. I have no way of protecting myself in this situation.
A week too late.
I remember buying joss sticks from Camden Market and not sure if that was illegal.
We did the same with those herbal cigarettes, you know, like the really stinky herbal cigarettes.
Yeah.
That I think we thought they were weed, but they're just horrible cigs.
Yeah.
I remember buying some at V97 and thinking, oh, what's going to go on here? And I was massively disappointed. It just felt like oregano or whatever. What's that? Have you guys seen Idle Hands, where he smokes oregano, the horror film? Yeah, it was an absolute letdown. Have you never smoked? Have you smoked any? Yes, you have, Stu. Have you smoked any sort of like weed substitute before, or is it just your friends who used to smoke their chemistry sets?
Yeah, he smoked the chemistry set, but that really messed him up. But that was one of them things where you had like a week where someone's mum and dad was away, so you'd all move in round there, and and then at the beginning of the week, everyone would start drying out their banana skins to smoke them at the end of the week, which done fuck all, obviously. but it was just one of them things that you had to do. But yeah, they were. I mean, that was the same week that the guy obviously found his younger brother's chemistry set and smoked it in the loft. But that when they couldn't find anything else to try and get high on, they were going, oh, right, look, if we heat this up. And I remember the sort of thing that my dad would do if he had a cold in the 80s. Like they literally had a towel over their head, over this like hot saucepan, like on the stove. But they were boiling up his dad's bottle of Curos aftershave and was just like trying to get high off the fumes of Curos. It was fucking vile.
Oh, incredible.
Yeah, I think that was it really. And I think like we'd always kind of, if there was like loads of legal hires and stuff when like I was around sort of like more like legal hallucinogens, because I think like when I was like sort of 17, 18, like everyone was doing acid trips. And it was like, oh yeah, they can do this one, and like none of them ever done anything.
Poppers, we used to buy poppers from Camden Market.
Oh, course, yeah.
Camden Market was basically poppers, joss sticks,
tie-dye, like that T-shirt you're wearing right now,
and skull ashtrays.
Yeah,
you couldn't fucking go anywhere without a skull ashtray.
And like fake band merchandise.
I was about to say, would you get your knocked off metal tees from there?
Yeah, I got so many knocked off metal tees from there. I got a Cradle of Filth t-shirt, a knockoff Cradle of Filth t-shirt that just had the word fuck on the back in massive letters.
That is bringing back memories. I think we discussed that, you know. I think
quite possibly.
Yeah, amazing.
I used to buy bootleg cassettes and vinyl from Camden Market of like gigs. You could go and buy like the cassette or like a vinyl of the gig that you'd seen. And I remember buying a Depeche Mode one and being well excited and getting home and like you could barely hear it when the stereo was on full volume. No. It was so shit.
Oh man. There was a point when I didn't really go for a Camden Market phase. The only time we really bought anything there was when there was a very brief moment in time when they legalised magic mushrooms. And then we went to a Doors gig and we all had mushrooms and it was the best time ever. But I kind of missed the...
Sorry, was it like 60s? You saw the Doors?
You are much older than I thought you were. You went to a Doors gig and you took magic mushrooms.
Yeah, went back in time. We just travelled through time. It was obviously Jim Morrison wasn't there, and it was I can't remember who.
Oh, was that the when Ian Ashby from the Cold fronted them?
That's it. Yeah, it was bloody good. But that's it. That's my Camden Market purchases. I was quite chuffed with that one. Got
My
no nudie
friend,
gear.
my friend tried to buy weed from Camden Market. We were staying at his dad's flat, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go and get some weed." And we were quite impressed. And he came back. He went, "Yeah, I bought some hash and bought some weed." We're like, "Great." And he was like, "Let's unwrap it." And at no point did he suspect that anything wrong was afoot when he'd bought weed in a small black plastic bag and hash wrapped in tin foil. And he unwrapped it, and the weed was screwed up newspaper, and the hash was a little block of wood.
Oh God!
We laughed at him for a full hour. He spent 40 quid on newspaper and a tiny block of wood.
Oh man!
There was a mate of mine called Dean, and there was there was a rumour that there was this guy that you could go and buy weed off at this like burger van near where we lived, and he was like, yeah, he's always like parked up near the burger van, and we sort of lived about a mile from it. We was like, Dean, like, because he was the only like one of us that like had like, a motorbike. He had like a really shit sort of scooter, and we was like, go up the burger van and see if like that fella's there, and like get a 16th. And I remember we sort of just drove up there. This before mobile phones, and then like ages later he come back, and I was like, was he there? He was like, yeah. I said, like, what happened? He said, oh well, he took my money, and as he walked back to his car, he got in the car, drove off, and his other mate had fucked off on my moped as well.
Oh God!
Double stitched up, had his moped stolen, and took his money.
Oh shit!
Should we do the top spot?
Let's do numero uno.
It's quite obscure, my number one, I think. But so this is a film that I saw on a plane. I was on and this is another school trip story. We were on a plane, and it was back when. Do you remember when you didn't get all the films on planes?
Yeah.
So they had the films, but you had to pay for films basically. You didn't just get a whole package. Like there were a couple of free ones, but there were ones you had to swipe your card in the little telephone to get. But because there was like a big like rabble of us, I remember the air hostess giving us the code to just get all the films free. Because I think she was either charmed by us or just wanted us to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, probably the latter.
I think it was the latter. I think in my head at the time, we were probably like 13. I was like, this air hostess is really dazzled by our vocab online. Sheer wit. So she gave us the code for all the films. And one of the films was called The Devil's Advocate. It is, I don't know if you've seen it.
Keanu Reeves in that.
It's Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, I remember this.
Playing a lawyer.
Of course.
Who also, spoiler warning, is the son of Satan, played by Al Pacino, who tempts him into representing him and basically to display that as a lawyer he lacks the morals to be good, basically, so he can take over as Satan. It's mad. Charlize Theron's in it. She goes bonkers. She's naked in it at some point as well. But
she loses her shit in that.
Yeah, she goes psycho. But there's a scene towards the end when it's all revealed that Keanu Reeves is Al Pacino's son, the son of Satan, and Connie Nielsen, who has been in it the whole way through. It's a full frontal nude scene where she tries to tempt Keanu Reeves into having sex with her in Al Pacino's office, and like the wall is like all swirling with demons and spirits, and she's completely butt naked, and she's very, very attractive woman, but also I love heavy metal. There's a real metal vibe to the whole scene. What I had forgotten about this, I remember watching it on the plane and just being like, I am sat on a plane watching a TV with a naked woman on it. Life does not get better than this.
Tell me you was wearing that Cradle of Filth t-shirt.
Sat next to your dad.
Slight hitch reading back the plot as I did today. Part of the plot is she is actually his sister, which is pretty. So she's Al Pacino's daughter, and he's trying to get them to make like a little demon baby. But I think as a 13-year-old, I completely ignored that element of it. I was like, well, get rid of that weirdness. There's just a hot red-headed lady with everything out, and there's fire and demons. This is so cool.
That's a good one. I didn't even think of that, Ed.
Well, I think about it every day of my life.
Well, I mean, has anybody got any ones that they know were body doubles?
No, I don't think so. None, mine are all legit.
So I can tell you that one of my probably favourite, one of the most beautiful women of all time is Britt Ekland. And in the Wicker Man scene where she's dancing against the wall, do you know the scene I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Where there's an Edward Woodward's in the room next door, and then there's just this kind of weird movement she does where you see something quite explicit. Not her.
Oh,
Body double.
Sneaky.
Body double.
Does that ruin it for you?
No. I've got a very vivid imagination, Ed. And another one.
Are these all body double scenes?
Yes.
Is your top 5 body doubles?
No. I was just thinking of a few. All it was I remember.
I love that. That's your thing. You like nudity and you like being lied to. That's what really turns you on.
Mine is plastic breasts and dicks. And
neither of you like to be given what's presented. That's what.
It's got to be subverted in some way.
Yeah. I used to do lots of work with the actor that played Jay in The Inbetweeners, and the scene in the film when he's standing by the swimming pool and the young lad runs up and pulls his trunks down. He refused to do that. That's a cock double.
Is it a stunt cock?
Yeah.
Who's doing that though? Who's on set at that point and goes, all right,
I'll
you
step
can
up.
use mine for that. Yeah.
Cut. One of the ADs just runs on and just whips out his wiener.
You'd never be able to tell anyone, would you? If you go, I'm an actor. Done much film work? Well, you know.
Don't go on my IMDb. Have you? So, would either of you go full frontal naked for a part in something?
I think firstly, I'm not an actor, but I mean, there's any excuse really for me to show my penis. Really, I don't know. I don't think it bothered me now, but I think like as a kid, I mean, or like a young man.
I'm not asking for young boys to take their clothes off. I want to clarify that.
It's a different top 5. Sorry, I think when I was younger, I would. Now, whatever. But I don't think that's ever going to ever arise where someone's going to need me to be a stunt cock in a movie, Stu. How about you, mate? Would you do it?
Ed?
I think it depends. It depends what it was, because I think if it was anything serious where they were like, and now this is going to be a thing where you have to be sexy and take your clothes off, I'd say absolutely not, because it's fucking ridiculous, and I wouldn't take myself seriously, and no one else would. But if it was like a Jason Segel forgetting Sarah Marshall scene,
Ed Gamble coming out of a cake.
Oh yeah, me coming out of a cake with my dick out. I would 100% do that. I think if it was for if I knew it was going to be if it was like a film or a good sitcom or something like that, yeah, why not? Brilliant. Although having said that, those things never go away, really, do they?
No.
Now.
Well, you can just write one Google search, one drunken Google search later.
As I found out, I'll be on the next drunk cast. Then it'll be top 5 Ed Gamble dick pics you'll be doing with someone else.
Well, before we start to wrap things up, Ed, I want to talk about your new podcast because, as we discussed on the drunk cast, we're all huge music fans, and you've took that love of music to your new podcast.
Yeah, so I do. The whole series is out now, actually, which is nice. So I can sort of push people towards it. It's called Life Is. It's on Spotify, and it's about. So I love heavy metal, as I mentioned, and it's about bands on the whole that have been going for a long time and never made it as massive bands, but are still going. And it's about what it takes to sustain a life in the music industry when you're not necessarily famous or rich. So it's about sticking with the love of music and overcoming hurdles that are put up in your way. So we interview a lot of older bands like Diamond Head and Skindred, Sepultura. We interview loads of bands, Rock Goddess, like some really obscure bands as well, but probably had a bit of a moment back in the 70s, and then just sort of stayed at the same level until now. But they're still going, which I find really impressive. And then a couple of newer metal bands as well, about what it takes to start off in music now, when there's fuck all money in it. So you really do have to do it for the love.
It does strike me though. It's like I can't even remember if we spoke about this on the Drunk Cast, but when James done Off the Beaten Track, we was talking about kind of tribes in music and the fact that, you know, in the early 90s there were so many different kind of genres of music, and then sub-genres of alternative music, and all of them had quite specific dress codes and such, and that's all disappeared apart from metal. Metal is still like it's never going to go, is it? It's like that kind of metal imagery is so solid.
Totally. I think if you go to a metal gig, you see the same faces as well if you go to metal gigs in London, and it really feels like a tribe still. But I think within metal, people feel more comfortable listening to other types of music now. So I think genre boundaries have been blurred a little bit there as well. And like, there's a lot of metalheads are really into like dark wave music and sort of shoegaze music, and things cross over. And I think metal as a genre particularly is quite absorbent of other genres.
Yeah.
So like you'll find that in black metal especially, they'll use a lot of shoegaze, and they'll use a lot of electronic music, and they really take other genres on nicely. But also, you're right, it really still feels like a tribe. If you say you're into metal, and someone else you've immediately got something to talk about.
It's interesting you say about that shoegaze thing, because I interviewed Andy Bell a little while ago from who was in Oasis and Ride, and Ride were a band that I guess some of the early pioneers of shoegaze scene, and it was really weird because I was sort of chatting to him, and he was saying like that the shoegaze thing, he said, like kind of fizzled out in the UK a little bit, but America just bought into it. And he said, and I then said to him, when I first heard Minerva by Deftones, I was like, that's pure fucking shoegaze.
Totally.
And like, and there's so much stuff in that kind of side of metal, I think, that it's just them layers of guitars that is pure dreamy shoegaze.
Because you can build a wall of noise with that. And you know, it sounds melodic and it sounds pretty and sparkly, but also it can be fucking loud. And I think that's what metal bands look for, is just new ways of being extremely loud. There's a black metal band called Death Heaven who are like considered, you know, pretty pioneering in terms of what they do. So there's a lot of black metal. It's a horrible wall of noise, but it's also shoegaze guitars. They're well worth checking out if that's the sort of thing you're into.
Yeah.
The vocals are often people's biggest sticking point with metal. So that's like screech black metal vocals. So it's like a fucking horrible.
Yeah.
And that's because most people seem to say, I like the guitars, but oh no, I couldn't understand what that man was saying.
Did you always like the screaming? Do you like the screaming? Or was it like a progression for you that the more you listened to black metal, the more you got into that and appreciated the variety?
It never bothered me. I always wanted to listen to something more heavy. So me and all my friends were into nu metal, and then they all sort of dropped out of it, and I just constantly wanted to push it and listen to more and more extreme stuff. I sort of keep it a bit more varied now. I have to be in the right mood for some fucking horrible screaming stuff. But no, I really like it. I mean, I think the first time I heard Fear Factory or Machine Head and just those really aggressive vocals was just huge. I love it.
I like it. I can take some of it, but I like the kind of the more sort of Chino and Mike Patton approach of like being able to scream and then just switch it and just have an incredible, like, you know, singing voice as well as a screaming voice. I think like I kind of like that kind of when I can switch it up, you know.
Totally, yeah. I mean, it took me a while to appreciate Deftones properly. I think because I started listening to nu metal when it was like some of the really obvious stuff, like Limp Bizkit and to an extent Korn, and then Deftones were lumped in with that. But they're more of a rock band. They're not like, they don't feel like a metal band to me. They're more of a sort of art rock.
I agree. I think the first time I heard Deftones, it took me a little while to get my ear into it, and then weirdly I was on another school trip to Belgium, and I had that on just a cassette, and once was forced to sit there and listen to it for like an hour, I was like, I can't. I just thought I'd won the lottery. I was
it's not
looking down and people are just like looking at me like, what are you listening to, mate? And I was in my element. Loved it.
It's mad that they got lumped in with like Slipknot, Korn, System of a Down, fucking Mudvayne, Mushroomhead.
Yeah.
Like I love Slipknot to death, don't get me wrong, but they're not comparable in any way. They're just not similar bands, full stop.
I think that's just because Kerrang embraced the Deftones early on, didn't they? And I guess the metal press got behind them, so I think that's probably why they got sort of lumped into that scene. But I guess they're one of them bands that the NME were on board with them as well. They just seem to sort of transcend, I guess, probably down to those sort of shoegaze stuff. But just regarding your podcast and the guests that were on there, did you have much involvement in choosing who you wanted to speak to?
So we had a bit, but then we did it with Spotify. So it's a Spotify exclusive, and they picked quite a lot as well. And the production company Pixiu, who we were working with, were very good at finding stories. So we tried to dig around and find people with incredible stories. So there were a couple of bands I'd not even heard of, to be honest. Yeah. Like Grim Reaper, who were like a new wave of British heavy metal band in the late 70s, early 80s, and have been going all this time.
Great name for a metal band.
Yeah, so it's so perfect, isn't it? And the lead singer is called Steve Grimlett, so it all works out perfectly.
How many metal bands have searched Google and gone, got Grim Reaper, and they've been like, fuck's sake.
I've actually got an amazing book back there somewhere, which is called All Known Metal Bands, which is just a beautifully bound book, and it's just a list of every known metal band name. And there's some where you hit, I mean, Grim Reaper, I'm sure, is one of them, where it's just like 4 pages of Grim Reapers. So they do just list them. They don't put Grim Reaper brackets times 50. They just put each individual entry for each Grim Reaper, which is really funny.
People saw it and went, there's another band called Grim Reaper. Yeah. They're like, I really don't care. Got to have it. Got to be called Grim Reaper. I
would say that they were probably the first. That's how long they've been going. And he's an amazing guy, Steve. But like 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, I think I'm right in saying, they went to on tour to South America. And he got an infected foot, and he had to have amputate his leg when they were in Ecuador. And 6 months later, he was back on stage with Grim Reaper. So stories like that, they're just incredible. So the production company did a lot of digging around to find those guys. But hopefully we'll do another series, because there's loads of other people I want to talk to. There's some...
How many episodes is it, mate?
It's 8, I think. I think I'm right in saying. So we spoke to Danny Filth from Cradle of Filth, which was fun. I got to tell my T-shirt story. And they're great as well, because they had so much controversy back in the 90s, because they had another T-shirt which was official merch that had Jesus as a cunt written on the back.
Yeah, of course.
And someone got arrested for wearing it. So we talked to him about that. And then the 8th episode had to be recorded in lockdown, so I got to speak to metal stars across the globe, which was a lot of fun.
Incredible.
8 episodes, and then fingers crossed another series. And once this is all over, lockdown, we might get to travel and meet some new people.
Wonderful. And off menu, what's happening?
Off menu's ticking along. I think we've still got 25 episodes recorded in the bank.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's very lucky the way things have worked out, because we always have because we'll record, if we're going to record, if we have time to get together, we'll try and do 3 or 4 in a day. And then we went to America for 2 weeks and I think we did 26 episodes in the States. So We're just releasing those slowly. So this series is about to be over, and then we've got enough for another series, but we're doing like live streamed ones as well. So it's all good. That is still going strong.
Wonderful. Well, if it's all right with you, when we put this out, we'll tag you and off menu and stuff in it on the socials. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. We'll get it retweeted.
Lovely. Ed, thanks so much for giving up your time tonight, mate.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thanks for indulging me in my apparently completely grubby tendencies.
The only thing I'm a bit disappointed in is we've got through an hour and no one's mentioned the nude scene in Howard the Duck.
Well, that was there for the taking. You could have done that.
It's in there now, and people will be like, what's he talking about?
Wonderful. Oh, thanks loads, mate.
Cheers, Ed. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, guys. I'll send over the thing now, my recording.
Oh, much appreciated, buddy. Oh.